So, hey, am I on, Steve?
Yes, you're on.
I see your face. Is that the way it's supposed to be?
uh, your face is actually on my screen.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, you get to see either mine or Steve's beautiful face here. I guess mine is up at this point. So, welcome to week one. The question for this week is really, how do creation stories affect and enhance your spirituality? And that's the overall, the sort of meta question that we want to be talking about this week. And there's a number of exercises we've designed that Steve will go over with you in just a few minutes about sort of how to get at that and pull this stuff from you. But I just want to talk to you a minute with a story, one of our Cherokee stories that I think a number of you have heard me tell before, and that's the story of Grandmother Turtle. And I'm not going to take the time to tell it now, but basically, you remember the story is about the animals go to the Creator because they're running out of room, and it's just water around. And so the Creator knows what's on their heart, and he tells the animals to basically dive to the bottom of the ocean and bring back this mud, and then that Creator would then expand the land, and there would be room for the animals and all their offspring and everything like that. Well, the bottom line of the story is that the Grandmother Turtle continually tries to offer herself as the one to do it, and they keep telling her that she's too old and too slow and all of this, and basically the duck tries it and can't do it. He just pops back up, and then the otter tries, and the otter ends up just playing, and then the beaver does it, and Mrs. Beaver comes back and says no one can do it, she almost died, and finally Grandmother Turtle goes through the crowd. She goes to the bottom. 7 days later, she floats to the top, and she's dead. And then as they're pulling her in, they discover that there's this mud in her claws. And so they take that mud to the Creator, and the Creator then spreads it all out and makes what we call Turtle Island. And in honor of Grandmother Turtle's sacrifice, they call it Turtle Island. The Creator calls it Turtle Island, and a lot of people say it's shaped like a turtle. So that all happens, and that is one of our many creation stories. But out of that, I get a whole lot of things which help me when I'm just living my life and living and out in creation. So, for example, there's some things that come to mind, like the Creator has them do something, cooperate with the Creator and with each other and with creation. So it tells there's an interconnectedness of all of these things in order for the good of everybody, for this to happen. Another one is Grandmother Turtle is the elder. Right away, Native people recognize that the other animals are rude to Grandmother Turtle, and that's against our culture. And so there's this sort of thing about, well, of course, finally the elder's going to come up with the solution, and she does. And then there's this sacrifice, this great sacrifice that has to be made for the good of all. So there's a whole lot of things that I can draw from that story that sort of that tell me, hey, if I'm going to cooperate with the Creator, if I'm going to cooperate out in creation and with other people, there's going to be sacrifice involved. There's going to be listening to my elders. There's going to be working with the community, all these kinds of things. So there's a whole lot of lessons I could unpack during the whole thing. That's just a quick example of one of our creation stories.
Let me give a different example. Mine's of a different sort of a kind, but a story about swimming on Lake Chelan. Lake Chelan is this beautiful lake in the center of the state of Washington. And one summer day, hot summer day, I was out swimming on the surface of Lake Chelan, and I turned over and I laid on my back and I looked up into the sky, and the water was really warm, and the sun was shining down. And it was a beautiful day, and I just had this wonderful sense of peace and calm, like the world above me was warm and peaceful. And okay, so I said, yeah, I think I'll turn over. So as I turned over on the water, I kept my eyes open. And as I was turning over, my eyes were going, and I was seeing onto the shore. And then as I started to turn over, my eyes kept going and following the bottom of the shore underneath the water. And I watched as I turned. It went down and down and down. And all of a sudden, when I got clear over, I was peering down into a dark abyss. And my whole world in that moment, in that instant, my world changed. My understanding of the world changed. Instead of me sitting on this comfortable bed on a warm, sunny day, now I was hanging above a dark abyss, and I was pretty sure some Leviathan was going to come up and grab me and drag me under the water. I was overcome with almost terror and swam to shore and looked around to see if anybody had been watching me. And I realized I'd had sort of a gestalt, a change of world in which the world I believed I was living in, or where I was located in the world, when it changed, my whole attitude about who I was and my security in the world changed. It's a very different kind of a story than what Randy was talking about, but in a way it illustrates this connection between our picture of the created order and where we are in it. Back to you, Randy.
So yeah, Steve, that's interesting. Now, when I hear your story, I think about, in our Cherokee way, we talk about balance and everything. That life has sort of a light and a dark side. Everything is that way. There's the night and the day. There's the winter. There's the summer. There's the spring and the fall. And all of these things balance each other out. Male, female. Even on an eagle feather, you have a shiny side and a sort of a dull side. And so, as you talked about turning over, I was thinking about that eagle feather, and just the difference between that what you saw was the balance of it. So I don't know if that's anything that you ever used to interpret that, but for me, that's what I saw. So it was a sense of harmony instead of a sense of fear, even though fear could be there, and still sense that balance in life.
Yeah.
So anyway, these are just a couple stories, and you're all going to come up with stories that you either remember, or a link to a website, or if you want to look up your own particular tribe. Say Ken, you wanted to look up the Sami, you can look under Sami creation stories, and others can do other things, and sort of examine those. And then we got some exercises for you. This class is definitely not one where you just sit inside and look at the computer. So you have to get out and participate in creation, and that's the exciting part about this. So I think Steve's going to sort of walk you through and bring us on home.
Great. So you might want to, at this point, if you haven't already gone there, go to the website. And I'm just going to take you on a tour of the work for this week, looking onto a different screen here. And you'll see a standard, sorry about that, WebCT or course website. And it kind of lays out the work, and the cycle for our week is first Saturday through Tuesday, in which we do some individual work, and then Tuesday through Friday, where we're going to do get in and talk together and think together. So in the first part of the week, the first thing you're doing is watching this movie, and then there's on the second thing, there's a link to take you to a TED Talk where this Indian guy is going to talk about myths out of India and the collision between myths from India and myths in the West, and how we really need to understand one another's myths to understand how people are living in the world that they've constructed for themselves. Then we'd like you to go look at the biblical texts, and so creation stories in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, and think about them for a few minutes. And then the fourth point there, we want you to take a look at 2 indigenous creation stories, preferably one of them from your own tribe, and you can do a Google search to find stories, and we've given you a couple links there, and ask the same question of those creation stories as we did of the biblical text, and think about those. And then under the fifth exercise, what we want you to bring those together, the 2 sets of stories from Scripture and with stories from indigenous creation stories, and what happens when you bring those together, what's the nature of that interaction. Then we'll start into a discussion. Now, this first week of the semester, or of this experience, we've got a short time frame, and so things are tightened up a little bit. So we'll have a lot of grace with one another, and these first week or two we'll be learning the dance we're going to do each week. But the discussion there basically asks you to go in and talk about how creation stories affect and enhance your spirituality. So read the instructions there. there carefully. I'd like you to do a first post that has a particular structure and substance to it, and then we'll go through a process where we read one another's posts. We need those first posts to go up by midnight on Tuesday, so that then we have time between Wednesday and Thursday to interact with one another. And then finally, just before Friday midnight, or sometime Friday late in the day, do one final post where you say, talk to us about how your thinking has changed or improved over the course of the discussion. And
And
then
make sure that they do a separate thread for that, Steve.
oh yeah, and if you would post when you go to start that, start a new thread on the discussion that lets us know that it's your final post. So, Randy, any other words before let them go?
No, I'm just excited. I know this class. I've had them for half a semester, and I know they're going to respond incredibly to this. They're going to enjoy it, and this could be one of the most exciting classes that we teach in the whole Master of Arts Intercultural Studies program. So thanks, Steve, for volunteering to help out and be a part of this.
Great. It's going to be good. We'll see you guys online here in a few days.